whenever something new happens in our lives, we get afraid, we get scared. AI will eat software. If I come back here in 8 years, we will have companies that are doing $1 billion a year with one employee. So this was me here at Nasscom in 2017, 8 years ago. And yes, I do look the same. It's not because of AI, it's because of AA, anti-aging. And after the session, I can tell you all about my hacks and tips on anti-aging, but today let's talk about AI for a second. At that time, I was on stage with CP, and CP Gurnani asked me a question. He said, look, the theme of Nasscom this year in 2017 is the path to 1 trillion. How do you think we get there? And I said, look, I don't have a magic map that gets the Indian IT industry, which was about $150 billion a year that year, to 1 trillion. But I do know what will not get us there. And what will not get us there is doing the same things that we've been doing for the past 30 years. But this was 2017, February. The most important paper in AI since then had not yet come out, which was Attention is All You Seek from my old firm, Google. And so I sounded very much like what people in the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones sounded like.
Winter is coming.
Starks are always right eventually. Winter is coming.
Tell Lord Tywin, winter is coming for...
It's 1,000 leagues from here to the wall, and winter is coming.
Because they are the nights of summer, and winter is coming.
You're a long way from home. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
So it sounded sort of doom and gloom, because I talked about AI, I talked about quantum computing that Piyush was talking about, I talked about computational biology. And when something is not real, not in front of us, it feels abstract, it feels very, very far away, and not in our lifetime, somebody else's problem, sort of like climate change. However, the world today is very different.
A raven came from the citadel. A white raven. Winter is here.
November 2022 has happened already. ChatGPT came into our lives, and AI is here. Now, is it going to be winter or is it going to be spring? That's in our hands. However, it is always human nature that whenever something new happens in our lives, we get very upset, we get afraid, we get scared. And that's exactly what happened. Even people like Elon Musk, 6 months after ChatGPT, said, look, wait, we need a moratorium. 6 months, no one do anything. Let's figure this thing out. The state of California, the birthplace of Silicon Valley, they wanted to pass a legislation which said any system above $100 million worth of work, and by the way, AI systems, as we know, take billions of dollars to train, will have to be heavily regulated. The EU, the hotbed of all regulation in the world, obviously wanted to stop everything ASAP. And that's because we all think and thought that AI was like the famous Night King from the Game of Thrones. You'll see lots of references to Game of Thrones. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to spend about 50 hours of your life and watch it all. After the conference, you'll gain as much about life's wisdom from them as the Vedas. I promise you that. But this is because, as technology changes, and it changes consistently, people stay the same. We saw this in every technological change. When the automobiles first came out in 1865, yes, the carriage drivers lost their jobs. But more importantly, everyone around the automobiles was afraid. The British government passed a law which said, hey, do not drive faster than 4 miles per hour. And by the way, when you drive it, have a person waving a red flag running in front of that horseless carriage, because it is so dangerous. The same thing happened with electricity. The person who was lighting the gas lamps on the streets of the various cities, they lost their jobs, yes, bad thing that happened. However, people were also afraid that this electricity could come in through their doors and suddenly blow up their homes. When it came to the telephones a few years later, same thing. Don't touch it. You may get electrocuted. This isn't limited in human nature just to technology. About 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago, when fiction writing became very common and novels became very common, people started saying, wait, this will be addictive. This is bad for your brain. It will make us nikammas. Stay away from reading novels. A few decades later, when Elvis Presley came on the scene, J. Edgar Hoover said, he is definitely a threat, national security threat to the United States. I wonder what J. Edgar Hoover would say about the national figures in the US right now. Don't want to speculate. However, I'm not here to tell you that everything is going to be OK, because it is not. Let me give you one very tangible example that impacts all of us here in the room, and that is software. Software development is changing forever. AI will eat software. AI will eat software. How? What is our classic mechanism, the way we've been developing software for the last 60 years, enterprise software? It has three major components. We have artifacts, and we have key IP that go with artifacts. The very first artifact that we build is a database, any software system. That database has very key IP, which is the data model of that system. The reason Salesforce CRM is so important is the way they've set up the entity relationship management of what a customer looks like in that database. That IP is very, very critical. On top of it, we build forms and flows that interacts with this data that goes in and out of that database. The key IP here is business processes. And then finally, we have skilled human labor that interacts with the software. So let's take a very simple example. Let's say you want to file an expense report. What happens? You take the receipt, either you take a picture, or you type in the key information from that receipt. What was the amount? Who did you meet? Was that person a client or someone from your own company, a colleague? And then you send it in. So you first did the data entry, you interacted with it, it went in. Your manager looks at it, they approve it or send it back for more information. Again, it goes back to the same chain. It moves forward, goes to your finance or accounting department. They make sure that it follows the company policies. Then they approve or send it back for more information. And eventually, it goes to your accounts payable department that ends up paying it. A whole bunch of humans, forms and flows, data going in and out of the system. That's how we built software for the last 60 years. And it's kept all of us happily employed and very happy making profits. The Indian IT industry grows, what, 10 to 12% a year. It's about $350 billion worth. With generative AI, that whole model is about to change. Because all generative AI does, it says, you give me a prompt, you tell me what you want, and I'll give you an action. I'll give you what you need. So all of a sudden, you go from this three-layer, the N-tier model that we've all fondly come to know, love, and embrace, to a model of, I tell you, file my expense report, and immediately I get paid. Why? Because when I take a picture of that receipt, all of a sudden, OCR can extract the key information. It knows the time and date. It can go into my work calendar, see who I was meeting at that particular point in time, populate that in the fields. It knows what the company's expense policies are. It can go check against it. It can come back and ask me for more information or not. And then immediately, it can go to payroll and say, pay this person. In parallel, an agent can go to my ledger and make the ledger entry. And accounts payable is done. This will happen initially to simple forms of software, like, say, paying your expenses. But it will get to more and more complex pieces of software as we go forward. So AI will eat software. That's a real oh shit moment. Don't you think? So is the Night King real, or something else can happen? What I'm here to say is that there's one very good piece of news embedded in what has happened with AI. The fact is, this is the first time in history that everyone around the world is at a level playing field. This is disrupting everybody. It's not just disrupting the people that we send here into financial services or insurance or CPG businesses. It's disrupting people in Silicon Valley. It's disrupting engineering at Google, at Meta, at Netflix, at Gandalf. I loved it. I loved how you snuck in like, D in with the O and the L. LinkedIn, I love. I love the fact that LinkedIn was in there. But it's better than the Mac 7 or whatever other acronyms we could have had. But this turn of the crank is momentous in the history of technology because we are all at the same level playing field. And when that happens, there's a mindset that gets us there, not a map. What is that mindset? I would propose to you that we are all immigrants in this new world. And as Indians, as IT and technology professionals, we all know what it means to be an immigrant. We all were immigrants in this land. 30 years ago, when I reached the shores of the US, I was going to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign for my graduate work. I landed in O'Hare Airport. And when I landed there, I was supposed to take a bus to go to Champaign-Urbana. I didn't know how to get there, so I went to this booth which said, had a big information sign on it. And I got there, I'm like, sir, I need to go get this bus. He said, no problem, handed me a sheet of paper. There was a star on it. He's like, you're here, you have to go there. What was that sheet of paper? That sheet of paper was a physical map of the airport. Now, I looked at it. I'm an IIT graduate. I thought I was pretty smart. I could tell you I've never felt dumber in my life. I had never seen a physical map in my life, let alone read one. This was 1990. The only maps we saw were in geography classes in school, where you'd see where is Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, where is Andaman Nicobar Islands, and we'd color them in different color shades. I grew up in Mumbai. The best map you had was the knowledge of the local panwala who'd tell you how to get to where you needed to go. So the first thing you learn as an immigrant is you learn to survive. You learn to understand the lay of that land. You learn to understand what that map looks like. And then as you learn that, and we all then learn that very quickly, we then figure out how to thrive, how to do more with what we have. In the cases of people like me who got there in 5, 7, 10 years, we started, I went to business school. I started a company about 10 years later. That got me to Silicon Valley. But even as we were sitting there, I still remember a conversation in early 2005 at Google, where I had been there for a couple of years. Sundar had just joined. Gokul Rajaram was there, if you know him. And three of us were sitting at the lunch table having a conversation, saying, you know what? This is kind of shitty, man. We're like, why? We are here. We are eating great free food in the Google cafeteria. We have great jobs. The company just went public. It's worth like $20 billion. What could be bad? Well, we look around us, and the best that people like us, brown people, could do, we were like heads of engineering. If we didn't start the companies ourselves, we're like, when will we run this place? When will we drive? And 10 years later, I was off helping drive LinkedIn, took it public. Sundar was next in line to be Larry's successor as CEO. Satya was already running Microsoft. Gokul was number 2 at Square under Jack Dorsey. Shantanu had transformed what Adobe looked like. We were driving. The immigrant mindset has its arc. The key thing we need to do now is to compress that arc. It took us 20, 25 years in the US to do that. We don't have 25 years now to be driving. So how do we do that? Survival is easy. We talked about it. Upskilling, reskilling, yesterday's story. If you're still talking about upskilling and reskilling next year, you're dead already. You've lost the game. We should already be thriving. We should be doing a lot more with what we have. The 1,600 models, the 400 different projects, they have to become pervasive. You have to rethink how you're running your business. If you were starting your business today, how would AI drive it? Think of it that way. And eventually, you want to be able to drive. You have to reimagine what that business looks like. There's a business right now in Silicon Valley called Cursor. If you don't know, look it up. It has a run rate of $100 million. It didn't exist 18 months ago. The number of employees it has is 27. That's roughly $4 million per annum per employee. The best companies in S&P 500, their annual per capita revenue is $350,000 a year. Google, when I was there, we used to do $1 million a year per employee. That was the best in class, best and better. It was 3 times that of the best company in S&P 500. Facebook, when it went public, $2 million per employee per year. This company in 18 months, $4 million per employee per year. They are the drivers. It's not going to be that long ago. If I come back here in 8 years, we will have examples of companies that are doing $1 billion a year with 1 employee. That will happen. The question is, will it be started by someone here or somewhere else? Enterprises need to embrace the AI also. It's not icing on the cake. It's not an afterthought. It's not digital transformation. It has to be ingrained. It has to be the key ingredient of that cake, not the icing on the cake. Right now, it's okay. Make your customer service agents, do your coding co-pilots, reduce your workforce by like 5–10% of software engineers. 30% of Google's code last year was written by AI. Interesting start. Rethink your business completely. This is one place also, and I know that the Honorable Chief Minister is coming here soon and talking, and this is a conversation to be had with him, and I hope that he brings this up, which is AI is also a public good. When a transformation of this scale happens, it's not just about individuals, it's not just about enterprises, it's also about the policymakers around us. It is a public good. Why is it a public good? There are 3 key components to AI that makes it hum. One is data, the second is infrastructure, the third is models. The models are created by people, by engineers. We can all create the models. Where did the data come from? It came from humanity. It came from all of us. It came from every interaction we've ever had online, digitally. It belongs to us. Similarly, the infrastructure that went into it, all the power, all the setup that is required, where does that come from? That comes from us. AI has to pay a dividend at a broader level for everybody. Making Elon Musk a trillionaire because of X.AI doesn't make humanity prosper. And we have to create that broader AI dividend. So I'll conclude by going back again to my form of Vedas, the Game of Thrones, and say that we are now at a crossroads. We have a choice.
I don't have love here. I only have fear.
We have a choice. The Chinese word for crisis is we, he. That word also means opportunity. In every crisis, there's an opportunity. We can choose fear, or we can choose love. And what I would say is that we should pick love. There is no magic map to getting us there, but there's a magic mindset. And that mindset, that level playing field, that is the biggest opportunity that humanity has. So I would actually say that AI will give us even greater human agency if we choose to use it appropriately. Thank you very much.